party, everybody. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. How is everybody doing tonight? I have got so much for you, so let's jump into it real quick. I want to give a shout out to the replay gang. I am so sorry that you missed this one. Oh man, you missed a good one. It's going to be good. But make sure you are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern, and sometimes whenever I feel like it. So smash that subscribe button, ring the bell, and you will never, ever, ever miss another Indian Jesus live party ever again. Big thank you to the sponsor of the stream, my6shirt.com. Whatever your persuasion, they've got something for you. And of course, it's the only place to get your very own The Indian Jesus official merch. Only at my6shirt.com. All right. So unless you're living under a rock, you have seen that the conservative alternative online media space has exploded. It's exploded. So I don't want to, I'm going to try and cover as much as I can. There's a lot here. So basically, I'm sure you guys know like the bones of the story. I think it was 2 days ago, Crowder came out with this video where he was talking about, since he came into free agency, that he would, field some offers. And this was one of the offers that came in. And he was like, wow, this is like, they're taking over everything. They're taking your merch rights and your email list, your social media, and they're just going to own you. And, it spoke to me. And, because he was leaving the Blaze. So that's where all these offers came in. And now he has this StopBIGCon. BigCon. Okay. So now it's like, okay, is this Fox News or is this OAN? Like, where's this coming from? But StopBIGCon. All right. He's talking about, like I can afford it. It's not about the money for me. But these smaller, younger creators, oh, that's me. That's me. I'm listening up. It's like a corporation's going to take everything and somebody has to look out for the little guy. So never sign one of these and so on and so forth, and just went off. But he didn't say anything as to who it was. Now, I've heard from, like I said, I was thinking Fox News or something like that. But apparently it was obvious to a lot of other people that this was clearly the Daily Wire. So the very next day, Jeremy Boring of the Daily Wire went on to address it in an hour-long video. And it seemed like by the end of that, it just seemed like, it was two friends who didn't really see eye to eye, but it was like, I kind of think some wires got crossed here. Let's hash this out. And I was even saying in the Discord server, the link is in the description if you want to join the party rages on. I was saying that I guarantee within a week, you'll see the two of them on camera shaking hands, whether they're working together or not. But then Candace Owens goes on Timcast IRL and blows everything up. So that is where I want to go in. Let's get to some of these comments. Who we got in the building? We got Mike in the building. What is good? What is good? Says, I understand both their positions and agree with both of them. They're coming from two different views. Exactly. Sister says, I don't recognize any of the names in the description. Well, you're going to learn today. And Doggy wants a pet. No, he wants food. That's what he wants. He wants to lay down. Good boy. Yay. There we go. And we got Dan. What's good, Dan? Welcome to the party. All right. So, I kind of feel like if you have an idea of what is going on, this that we have right here is the part that Crowder had issue with. So let's watch a little bit of this, and then we're going to jump to Candace because this, like I said, at the end of the video that Jeremy Boring put out from the Daily Wire, it seemed like it was just business stuff, and it was tough business stuff, but that it would work out. But once Candace came in, there was no going back. This is a full-blown feud. Now, Kluke in the building. Welcome, buddy. Welcome. Says, I don't understand how Candace Owens even has a following. Social autopsy alone should have immediately had her destroyed on the internet for life. Wow. I don't watch her specifically too often. You know, I'll see her when she's on with Timcast or in general. So I didn't know she was that hated. But fair enough. So let's jump into the video itself. I don't know exactly where we are, but we'll figure it out. As always, you guys know sometimes StreamYard can suck with the sound. So if you cannot hear the video, please do let me know. And please hit that poll if you have not already done so, as well as the like button.
Outside the scope of did my video.
Oh, wrong one.
The rights to your content, name, image, likeness, even the ones that you've built. Don't sign contracts out there that include multi-million-dollar penalties for different. Let me read you an example of what I mean.
Hey, we got Jared in the building. What's good?
And this would be if it was me. If Crowder fails to deliver a monthly content in any month or any of the quarterly content in the corner, including any and all ad reads, and by the way, all these contracts came with 3, 4, 5 ad reads per show, which would fundamentally change what this show is. Got to get those dollar bills. If I fail to do that, there would be a $250,000 reduction in fee per quarter. If, let's say, we did do everything per quarter, but annually maybe miss something, like let's say we went and did a Change My Mind instead of a daily show, which of course requires a lot more work, there'd be a separate $1 million penalty for that if you miss a single piece of content.
So that was actually misrepresented slightly, but again, I'm sure a lot of you have gotten into the weeds. Basically, what what happened? We have more of the the terms here. Get rid of those. We have more of the terms here, but basically, you're seeing two different sides. Crowder obviously wants to control all of his own stuff, do his own show, everything, and we also have on the other side Jeremy and the Daily Wire wanting to run a successful business. Hey, Captain Paul in the building, rare sighting. Welcome. What do you say? Oh, this is a massive clown show. I watched all videos involved. Daily Wire is a business. I get their need to protect their income, but the percentage as an initial offer was poor. Fair. That's fair. That is fair. But we have to understand that Jeremy specifically said this was what we thought was the base number to just get conversation started. Somebody was talking about how Crowder definitely makes more than that. And that's why it was just, what do they call it? A term sheet. Just something to get the conversation going, and all this about redlining, and you say, okay, well, I don't like that. You got to take that out. I'm already demonetized, so you can't penalize me for being demonetized. All that kind of stuff. And instead of doing that, he made this video. Crowder. Captain Paul goes on to say, as for Crowder, he has never worked at their scale. He needs to realize they need to run a business. Exactly. I am and I don't know much at all about, how these businesses work, what 7-8 figure business deals look like. I'm knocking on the door of 1,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button if you could. So I don't know that much, but much like Captain Paul, I have watched a lot of the stuff in the space, and I found it really helpful. And at the end of the day, it really seems like this is it, that it's to use Tim Pool's words, ideologically, Crowder isn't in the wrong. But a business is a business. Cook says Crowder didn't even care about the money. He cared about the fact that the revenue stream for creators at Daily Wire hinges at all on staying monetized on big tech platforms. Well, unfortunately, that is not true because that is not a boilerplate thing. I watched Brett Cooper's Instagram video, and she's like, yeah, that's, they're basically, they're all the same. And this was specifically catered for Crowder, being that Crowder is basically the Conor McGregor of the online media space when it comes to free agents right now. Let's put it that way. Captain Paul, Crowder is better off staying independent, in my opinion. I agree. Jeremy is right that this is their negotiating jump off point. Exactly. Crowder could have and should have, in my opinion, dealt with this in private. This is a lose-lose situation. Exactly. That's literally Crowder's words. How is that untrue? It's not untrue. But much like I was saying earlier to you, is that there's more to it than that. Just because you want something doesn't mean... I'm trying to do a show here, please. Just because you want something and just because it makes sense for you to want those things doesn't mean it's feasible for you to get those things. And so that's what we're going to get a little bit more into. Stishman says, so 5 million yearly reduction fee for failing to deliver any content. Yeah. So if I hire you to make me content and you fuck your shit up and can no longer provide me content, well, what am I paying you for? You know? Yeah, he'd probably be better than me. So we can go back to that and you know, go through specifics if we want. But after Jeremy came out and went through the entire thing and was like, bro, that's not what it's like. It's just basic business. We just want to send you the letter and get conversation started. We want to work with you. We're friends, all of this. Then this comes out. Shout out if you, oh, come on. Shout out if you know what the hell a talk boy is.
They don't get deals that...
They can be wage slaves for a little bit, come over and make a salary and grow their brand. They can be wage slaves for a little bit. They can be wage slaves for a little bit.
So I'll be honest. When I first heard that, I was like, whoa, I don't really know if I like being talked about like that as who would be, young up and coming talent, wage slave. But then very quickly, I went over to watch the Brett Cooper video, and she's like, you guys realize this is Jeremy Boring, the guy who calls himself the God King. All he was saying is that you got to pay your dues. You got to start at the bottom and work your way up. So already, something that had me, hooked in the beginning, later was essentially debunked and clearly is taken out of context. And then there's the fact, in and of itself, that he is playing a recorded video on air with, obviously, Jeremy didn't know they were recording. And so somebody brought up about how they would record conversations. It's not the recording. It's the fact that he is playing it on the air. Susan says, yeah, no, exactly. But that means Chowder gets at least 5 million a year for delivering content 17 times a year. Yeah. So even with all of that, that's something that Tim Pool points out, we will get to very shortly, that he that if that were to happen, that's a lot better off than a lot of other deals that you could have. Paul says Crowder recording that phone call made him look like a scumbag. Yep, exactly. And I got pushback from that. Like, why would you do that? Why would you? I'm like, what do you mean? Why would you be mad about that? It's like, because they're friends. They're working on things, and yes, they are in business together. They're not like just friends. But if you have ever worked with people in any capacity, you understand that there's levels. I wouldn't say that Steven Crowder and Jeremy Boring are best friends. I wouldn't say that they're boys. I don't necessarily expect to see them, with their families out on vacation together. But certainly, friend is not out of the realm of possibility, particularly because Jeremy starts his video saying that they're friends. Captain Paul says, let's be honest, most of the new guys in this industry start out as wage slaves. Yup. Exactly. And there's more too. And I know you know it, but let's, so he records this, and I just want to go through a little bit of this because, again, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this part, and I want to get to the Candace Owens part, but context, I love my context.
God bless the talk boy. Those things are worth like $5,000 now. It's an expensive gag. So didn't want to have to do this, but Daily Wire outed themselves very, very quickly. And sure enough, if you see all of the people who work there, some of whom I have relationships with, they immediately tried to make this all about money. Here's the problem. There are a few problems, and I'll go through with some receipts. Everything that was said about negotiations, how they transpired, beyond the numerical value, which is true, and I'll get to, everything else is untrue. I don't really want to get into that. It's completely irrelevant. Here's why.
Is it though?
Go back to the 20-something minute video, 30-minute video. You've never heard me say or write anywhere online that these offers weren't paying enough money. Why? Because it's not about the money.
I do believe him. One of the things before I had watched the Jeremy Boring video was that I watch a decent amount of Crowder. I don't watch him every day, but I watch a decent amount of Crowder, and I felt like he was being very sincere. And I still think that. I still think that he's being very sincere and he's simply not understanding things. You know, it comes up a little bit later in one of the videos that we're going to see that he's always worked for a company. He's never been completely independent. And even now he's under the blaze. And so he doesn't have, you know, he's a great content creator, he's a great broadcaster, but he just doesn't have that experience. And I think that's where the disconnect is. That being said, he still recorded the phone call and is now playing it.
It's kind of unreal to me that the only thing these people can still talk about is the money. The conversation was about conservatism, the movement, and big tech. They keep talking about money. I'm talking about a country. I'm talking about a movement. I'm talking about making a difference.
That's the disconnect. That's the disconnect right there. They are the Daily Wire is just trying to do business as they should, and he is trying to do what he believes is his calling or whatever as he should. So my biggest hope is that the viewers of people who like both Crowder and the Daily Wire are not going to you know, tribalize and make this into an actual civil war.
It's not about the money, and Jeremy and the Daily Wire know that. How do I know they know that? Because after, according to what he said, you know, I walked away from the offer. I did place one more call to the Daily Wire, and I made it very, very clear that it wasn't about money. That was not the topic of conversation. There was zero, as they've tried to portray this, miscommunication.
So
it was one last call where the only thing that I asked for, my only demand, was their word, and not even for me, but for other people coming up facing these kinds of contracts.
Again, that is the part that really, you know, call it bias, I guess. But that's why I was like, oh, he's speaking out for me.
Let's say it's a kid who comes in with 500,000 YouTube subscribers or something like that, 100,000. Let's say some other kid you're paying six figures to come in and do it. There's not the penalty of the demonetization or if they're removed from iTunes, Apple, YouTube.
Yeah, sure there would be.
And here's something else. I was also very measured.
So the point being that if you get banned, then you're screwed, which makes sense from the business perspective. So a little bit more
painstakingly clear in taking myself off the table because it wasn't going to be a right fit. That happens in business all the time. But that we weren't talking about me. We were talking about the futures of other people who could potentially be in that position.
Captain Paul says, I'm a fan of both Daily Wire and Crowder. I just think this is a needless drama. Jeremy can run his business how he wants to. It's on the creator to decide whether they say yes or no to that contract. And I completely agree with you. The, you know, what's going to come up a little bit later about StopBIGCon is really where, you know, my idea that by the end of the week, they're going to be shaking hands and all will be well, whether they're working together or not. That's really what changed my my perspective. I cannot. Sorry. All right.
Very disconcerting position. No miscommunication.
What I'm talking about is you're describing a model for everyone, not just let's get rid of me here. Everyone, if there's a penalty for being demonetized on YouTube, because your business model requires that be a huge component of it, you need to change your business model or this movement cannot work, Jeremy. I can't imagine my show trying to come up and be beholden to YouTube advertiser guidelines, let alone, I mean, honestly, being beholden from a conservative entity with hard strikes, right, being removed, but let alone being advertiser friendly. We know how broad those guidelines are. They might as well just read, don't say anything offensive, and they change them at the drop of a hat.
I'm not suggesting that the guidelines aren't terrible. I'm suggesting that if making money off of those platforms is part of how you're justifying the salary you're paying someone.
So, all he's saying is he's not saying he agrees with the guidelines. It's just if that's what I'm paying you to put stuff out on YouTube, you have to be able to follow the rules of YouTube. Well, it says as someone who's refused a few deals, all right, big baller here. A few deals when I was making gaming videos on my deleted channel. Some of the deals are terrible. I said no to all of them, and I think that's fair. You know, it depends on what your goals are, what your interests are. And for somebody like Crowder, whoever said it makes sense that he doesn't sign a deal like this. That doesn't mean it's a bad deal. And that's where a lot of the other Daily Wire people, and that's really what I'm going to focus on, how the Daily Wire people are responding to this. They didn't like how Crowder was characterizing their company. Just because it's not a good deal for you doesn't mean it's a completely unfair deal. Daily Wire's already paid subscription service. Crowder doesn't have the numbers for Mug Club, apparently, due to the debacle with Blaze. Yeah. So Mug Club, like their Crowder's Ladder with Crowder show, that's not the part that's not on YouTube, is through the Blaze. So if you sign up for the Mug Club, you're not signing up directly with Steven Crowder. You're signing up with the Blaze. And so now they're going to keep that as that contract ends. And that's where the Daily Wire was trying to come in, and seems like with a decent deal for $50 million. But I guess it wasn't good enough. Cook says, StopBIGCon probably wasn't even directed at Daily Wire at the time of the website's acquiring. They might have moved up Steven's list now, though. Oh, they might have moved up his list now, though, with Candace is slinging out nothing but personal attacks. All right, let's get to it. Crowder has his new email list, though. It's over 350K according to the quartering. Well, I mean, that's why I feel like this is so unnecessary. This is so unnecessary on the part of Crowder, because we're all friends here. We're not the leftists where everybody is fighting to crabs in a bucket, pull everybody down. Campbell says, I don't think he has business. He has all his business in order. That's why he has that Mug Club Forever website. Yeah, that's exactly, as he saw the end of the contract coming, and the terms at the Blaze probably weren't what he wanted them to be. Then he became a free agent. Then he saw, the offers aren't any better, or at least not as good as I wanted them to be. So we see, that's where the whole thing was as of last night, before Candace Owens. And so this is like the very beginning of the show, and I'll just let her do her thing.
All right, so here's the first story that we have, and this one's going to get spicy. We got this video clip from Steven Crowder titled, I Didn't Want to Do This. Crowder has issued a response to Jeremy Boring's response. In it, Steven Crowder releases some audio, notably, let me see if I can.
Well, wait, but Paul, that's the problem. There's no way to protect it, because that's the email list. That's the email list. Because Louder with Crowder, the show, belongs to the Blaze. It was never his to begin with. So he doesn't have anything to protect. It was a subsidiary. And so that's also why it's a little weird, because he's already in a deal like that. So Susan says, even if every view on Steven's YouTube channel would have been monetized for an average of 2.5K per million, his total YouTube revenue to date would have been less than 1 year with the Daily Wire. Well, I mean, it really is. It really does seem not about. I don't know. I was gonna say he did really do a good job of convincing me that it wasn't about himself. It was about the younger creators, the people coming up, and handcuffing people like myself who are trying to make a name in this space. Not exactly the space, but you know what I mean. Coming up and having to be handcuffed by the guidelines. So, but then when you see everything else, it's really hard to tell. Morty, lay down, please. YouTube demonetization taken so far back. He's not made shit off YouTube in over half a decade. That's crazy. But yeah, all right. So
play this. Do we have the audio properly set up?
They're gonna play a little bit of the same thing.
Here we go.
We'll
play the beginning.
We'll let her go. Actually, fuck it.
They don't get deals that
They can be wage slaves for a little bit.
And give me your thoughts on his response and what happened with the Daily Wire, because I know you got a lot to say.
I do have a lot to say about this, because obviously the situation impacted me and it impacted all of the other hosts on the Daily Wire. So first and foremost, I feel like I just want to say this, which is that I have never once, I've been with Daily Wire.
Again, though, Paul, that's the issue, is that he didn't have that option. Any of in the same deal that the Daily Wire was presenting, he is a contractor for them. So it's not like, and they'll Tim puts it in a good way, because of he runs his business in the way that someone like Crowder would want to work with that company, as opposed to a Daily Wire. But the whole idea of having licensing your content is that you can't just go use the publicity that you get from being on the Blaze and then taking all the revenue away from the Blaze to your own pocket. That's the whole point of these licensing deals.
Wire 2 to 3 years now. You have never once heard me come out to defend the Daily Wire on anything. This is not the first time the Daily Wire has been in a firestorm or had some beef that has gone on, whether it's for Ben or Matt or Michael that's gone on in the last 3 years. I tend to stay very much in my lane. As I mentioned before, I'm not an employee of the Daily Wire. I'm not required to come out and defend them. And I'm usually just not interested in these beefs that seem to be so fickle. They last for a day and then they go away. And it's probably the reason why, for whatever, doesn't really matter what anybody thinks about me, I have a good relationship with pretty much everybody. Like there's no one that I can't be invited and be in the same room with. Everybody sort of hates each other, but Alex Jones has a good opinion of me. Everyone from Alex Jones to Ben Shapiro to Paul Joseph Watson, Mike Cernovich is somebody that I call and ask for advice from time to time. Jack Posobiec. Like I'm a kind of person that judges people based on how they treat people, right?
I think it was vice versa, but I'm not sure.
Not interested in dabbling in this nonsense from time to time that appears and then goes away and ebbs and flows. This situation, though, was different because basically Steven Crowder decided to launch a war and didn't really care who got hit, with the shrapnel, right? He comes out, he makes this glorious video, which it's shocking to me that people cannot see the amount of acting that is going into this. We all understand he's a childhood actor.
So that's something I didn't know. I didn't know that Crowder was a childhood actor. And, I wouldn't necessarily say that through a screen I'm that great of a judge of character. Jesse on Fire comes to mind as somebody who could watch anybody and read them like that through a screen, real life, whatever. I think in general, when I hear people speak, I generally have a good idea of, who that person is, how sincere they're being, and that kind of stuff. But I mean, actor's gonna act, you know what I mean? So she said, everybody loves me because people talk shit about me behind my back instead of to my face. Huh? What? And yeah, Candace is going in.
I loved that show, Arthur. He was the brain. Like he is an actor. At the end of the day, he's an actor. It's also why he's so entertaining when it comes to politics. He's a talented person, but that people cannot discern the amount of acting that has gone on in this is stunning to me. I don't know where people's discernment, what's gone on with discernment, where you can't just spiritually discern that this feels a little weird. Right? You're recording conversations with someone that you have told us you are friends with forever. Oh, and by the way, at the end of you saying that you're just trying to do the right thing, you're also saying, I'm going to launch my own thing. Right? So just when I first saw the first.
And so again, I just want to, I really want to underline the fact that despite the fact that the primary nature of the relationship between Crowder and Jeremy Boring was a business relationship, that they still were friends. And I've heard a lot of people acting like, well, on the one side, oh, it's just business. And then on the other side, well, it's like, but they're good buddies. In business, it's not one or the other. There's a mixture and it has to be balanced. And, recording the call in the first place, a little weird, but, depending on what, Crowder was planning to talk about, if it's numbers and, on a backroom deal, Jeremy's going to say, yeah, I'll pay you $100 million, but, I'll work on it. But, and now he's got that recording because that's a little bit more on the level of business. But still, that's only if you need it and if they try to fuck you over, not the other way around. Susan says that's what Candace basically said, claiming everybody has a good opinion about her. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not too in her wheelhouse, but she just goes
first video
off
that he
here.
dropped. Obviously, I'm not privy to negotiations that happened at the Daily Wire. I had no idea they were negotiating with Steven Crowder. Again, not my business. I came into work one day, suddenly Brett Cooper was there. Not my business. I don't know who they're hiring. I don't own the company, right? But what I started
Shout out to Brett Cooper.
Getting was after I had dropped my podcast in the comment section, everyone was basically tearing me apart, being like, blink twice if you need help. For a signal like I'm a hostage situation, or saying, "What if you don't say anything about Steven Crowder? You're a fraud. You're a fraud." Just like suddenly you're a fraud. You're a fraud. So I go and I watch this video, and just like everybody else watching it live, his first video, your instincts are like, "Whoa, he's throwing some bombs. He's calling it big con. He's saying essentially that we are enslaved by these contract terms. He actually uses the term enslavement. If you don't want to be,
Yeah, he goes hard. That's that. When you understand the other side of it, it's very easy to paint a narrative. It's very easy to paint a narrative, even if you're not trying to paint a narrative. When you hear Jeremy's side, it's so much clearer that it's not as black and white as Crowder made it seem.
Be a slave, you maybe you'll come work with me. I'm going to figure it out for all of us. Like, you're a hero, you're a martyr. And because I was getting so many comments, the first thing I did was that I messaged my EP and I said, we have to cover this tomorrow on the show, because now everyone thinks I'm a fraud and they think that I've signed with fraudulent terms or slave-like terms. That's so totally unfair to me. So my interest in this is that it hit me and it hit everybody else at Daily Wire, and it was unfair.
Do you, I don't know, you don't have to answer this, I guess, but do you have a similar contract?
There are certain terms that I recognize. That's why I immediately knew it was Daily Wire. So, for example, the fee reduction if you miss a day of work, right? Like, if you miss a day of work, we are paying for X amount of episodes, and this is a steep amount if you miss one day of work. When you first see that, when I first received a contract from a Daily Wire, I went, that's a shocking number to see.
But of course, it depends on how much money you are making in general.
You have to calculate, and by the way, mine was not this. I want to be very clear. I don't have a $50 million contract. If there's anything I should be upset about, it's that they were going to pay that much to Steven Crowder, right? I need to go renegotiate my contract. But so you see it, and it's shocking. And then you read under, which is what he did not include when he says, so if I get hit by a car, like, I'm just going to $100,000 a day. He didn't tell you how much he made. You don't know what $100,000 means unless you can see what were they offering him. And you can calculate yourselves. Okay, so what they're basically saying is that we're paying you $63,000 a day. You know what I'm saying?
So the way that Crowder made it seem, he even used the example of, if you get in a car accident, you have to miss work, then you get docked however much money. But when Jeremy goes through the contract, it's like, no, within a 90-day period, we need X amount of pieces of content. And, if you miss a week, you could just make up that week over the next 2 months or whatever. And it's just, I want to think that it's just a misunderstanding. And I do believe to a certain extent it is, but as we get to some of the other details here, it gets a little bit dicey. So I'm keeping that, I guess it doesn't really matter. But
he purposely excluded right beneath it that says that actually it's pro rata if in event of an emergency. That's a very insignificant thing that would allow people not to be enraged at seeing this.
Yeah, just to clarify, when Jeremy released his video, he showed the additional portion that said in the event of temporary disability, they prorate you. There's no penalty. And then we talked about this last night. I said the $100,000 seems punitive. I think you mentioned, but what about Daily Wire's costs? I said, oh yeah, fair point.
DC Dranos it, and that is exactly right.
Yeah.
And so the example that Jeremy used in his video was like, look, if we're paying you, if you bring in $2 from a piece of content, then we get $1 and you get $1. Cool. But if you get banned and now you can only do, some of what you could do, and you're only bringing in $1, well, then why should it be that you still get the $1 and we get nothing? Which, hard to argue with. Kluk says, I mean, to be honest, Crowder's health was terrible for months just recently. Okay, what does that mean? Kevin Paul says, yeah, he had that heart issue where he needed to get his rib cage issue corrected. Okay, what I see what you mean. So in the saying that if something comes back that he might need to miss shows. Gotcha. Took me a second, took me a while, but I found it. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yes, they have all of these contracts that exist. It's very easy to understand.
He's addressing it right now.
Paying you, here's this $100,000. We're paying you $63,000 for the content. They also have a bunch of contracts, everybody that's working on the show. So for example, my EP, she's contracted. I don't know what her contract says. And maybe it says that no matter what, she is guaranteed this amount of money. So if I magically call out, they still have to pay her. They still have to pay the camera guy. Maybe the advertising is punitive. If you didn't give us the content, the advertisers maybe then say, okay, Daily Wire has to pay us $5,000 if Candace doesn't read ads on that day. You don't know when you have an organization this big what everybody's contracts are. So I assume it's $60,000 and then they're baking in an extra $38,000 to cover their asses to pay everybody else that maybe showed up for work that day.
But exactly. And what is traditionally saying that, if they ain't working, then I'm not paying. And that these were better terms that Crowder was offered. Now, again, the question is, did he know that these were good terms and that he was using this opportunity to just throw Daily Wire under the bus to start whatever platform he wants? Or is it coming from just ignorance of never having run a company and just always received a paycheck from a company and not really realizing that is what's at stake? And what is TBF? I know TBH. What is TBF? Seems to be interchangeable. But then again, apparently I'm the slave master. Yeah, it's capitalism, baby. That's what it is. It's business. Luke says, yeah, it was a bit harrowing to watch Crowder's health dwindle in real time until he finally had to stop and go radio silent for a while he was hospitalized. Absolutely. That was, it got serious. They opened they opened that motherfucker's chest open. That's not a real sentence. Captain Paul says, I think some of it is ignorance, to be fair. I agree. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's just been the guy behind the camera, and you get a big head when you are the biggest guy who's doing his own operation. I mean, that's kind of Tim, but you know what I mean.
But Jeremy did say punitive because he said, well, you're right about the costs all around it. But he basically said one circumstance is you're choosing not to work, and one is you're unable to work.
Right.
If you're unable, we get it. We'll just prorate based on the lost day. But he also said something interesting that you could make up that day by banking it at any time.
Right.
So
I do that, by the way. I do that. And that's why it's so annoying. So I see these things, and it's to people who don't know how this works. First and foremost, it's a term sheet. He was never given a contract. It was a term sheet. It's essentially a starting conversation. Here's what we have in mind. Everything's baked in. Some things literally don't make sense. Like in my term sheet, it said, we, whatever about, they wanted access to my Snapchat. I don't have a Snapchat. They wanted access to my Rumble. I don't have a Rumble. They don't want access. It's literally just like, here's something so we can get the conversation started. And really,
that's it. Here is something to get the conversation started. I didn't know that. I wouldn't have known that. So even though I want to look at somebody like Crowder, it's like, oh, he's so established. Maybe he didn't know that. But again, as we come to, things like the domain name and the timing and the number and the actual structure of the terms, I don't know.
The thing you need to pay attention to is like, this is the money. And then, of course, our lawyer is going to go back and say, this makes entirely no sense. This makes entirely no sense. So then you get to, personalize it, so to speak, right? When you say, okay, well, this thing makes me nervous because, okay, what if it's not me that's sick, but my son? I have 2 kids, right? What if my son breaks his leg and I have to be, I'm not going to not leave his side. So
Cook, I would say it's not that they would want you to do that. They build that in for things like what she's talking about, that if you have to, then you can talk about something from today and release it tomorrow. And there's definitely ways to talk about things, even if you are directly in news, that don't have to be the headline of the day. So I don't know that they disagree, and they're like, yeah, just do 365 episodes on January 1st, and then you're good. I don't think they would be too happy with that. But, it's just the thing is that, hey, we want you to want to be here. So if shit happens, we're not going to take money out of your pocket for something that you couldn't control. We want you to want to work here.
So I have to then say, I need to personalize this term sheet. And that is what the contract is then for. If you come to some agreement that this is what we're going to work on, right? This is what we're going to negotiate in good faith, right? So he first and foremost lied by saying it was a contract. He lied by omission by not saying how much money, so people couldn't calculate, okay, really, how punitive is that $100,000? Not that much. And you consider that there's a bunch of costs that go into producing a show and people that they may have paid, editors. In this case, he produces his own show, but editors, writers, no matter what, the Daily Wire has to receive that package and do something to it. So, and by the way, like I said, we know it's at least standard. So it's not because they're trying to hit Steven Crowder. They've given this to all of us. And your job then, if you're a big boy, right? If you can put on your big boy pants, is to go to your lawyer and to say, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. This makes no sense. Negotiate. Now, if you are a young talent that was discovered on YouTube, as I was way back in the day, who comes from no money, as I was way back in the day, this could be like unfair because I can't afford a lawyer to go through line by line of this and redline this.
And again, to be fair as I can be, that was exactly what Crowder was saying, is that it's not about him. It's about the smaller creator who doesn't have exactly what Candace is saying right now. Exactly what she's saying. Again, the question is, was he full of shit or not?
That is not the circumstance for Steven Crowder. He's already told us he's got so much money, he's more successful, and he doesn't need the money, blah, blah, blah. So why don't you just hire a lawyer?
But that's what he said in the rebuttal.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's about the Daily Wire signing new upcoming young people to these terms, and they don't have
and in that capacity, he hits Brett Cooper. Right now, he's basically, so who is a young upcoming talent that got signed with Daily Wire? There's only one.
Well, I don't understand what this means. He said, I like how Candace says negotiate when Crowder literally took issue with the fact that that shit was even there to begin with. That's what a negotiation is. That's exactly what she's saying, is that it's just something to get the conversation started. And so you cross out what she said about her Snapchat and Rumble. That was in the team term sheet, because it's usually a standard boilerplate thing, and they just plug in the details of who they're talking about. Hey, we got Just Talk About It in the building. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you doing? So technically, Steven Crowder of Louder with Crowder has deemed the Daily Wire, so the people who have Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens here, Andrew Klavan, Michael Knowles, the people who did What is a Woman, that company. They sent a term sheet over to Steven Crowder, another conservative commentator who was leaving his company, and he wasn't happy about it. And instead of negotiating, and especially because Steven Crowder and the Daily Wire guy, Jeremy, because they're friends, they could have just talked about it and negotiated. He went scorched earth and called them out on air, blacking out their name, but in a way that was obvious enough that people could tell. But welcome, Jess. Captain Paul says, you always ask for more than you want in negotiations. That's just business. Welcome, Cerebrus. Welcome to the party. Says Brett Cooper, the youngest Daily Wire, the youngest on Daily Wire, explains review, and it's not with Crowder. Yes, I have that. We'll pull it up if necessary. For the most part, in that video, she's just talking about her experience and how she's just had a good experience working with the Daily Wire. But she gives her opinion on how, as the young talent that Crowder was referring to, that she's very happy with her deal. She's like, I was nobody last December. Now I have, whatever many followers. So again, it comes back to the idea that Crowder is taking a stand at this is a bad deal. Not just a bad deal for me, but this is a bad deal, and this is a bad way of doing business. And that, a Big Con, aka the Daily Wire, who's not big anything, is in bed with, big tech by having penalties if you get banned, when what they're buying from you is your content. So if you can't produce content, it makes sense that they're not going to pay you for content. I want to show support to the channel, but I don't like Candace Owens, so I don't think I can stay too long because I don't even want to hear her voice. I can't blame you. I know she is quite Candace. Let's just put it that way. Glad that you stopped by.
What, 5 hosts of shows on the Daily Wire? I mean, so you're talking about Matt Walsh? No, he's not young upcoming talent that's just been signed. You're talking about Michael Knowles? No, he's not young upcoming. You're not talking about Candace Owens. I don't think we would say Andrew Klavan is young upcoming talent. So you're talking about Brett Cooper. That's insulting to Brett Cooper. You have no idea he's just saying shit, right? And it's not like he's reached out.
Just saying things. She stole my word.
And said, hey, like, I'm
here. Let's do this. Let's do. So this was the
doing
video.
this for all of.
Come on. How do you unmute this? So this was the Brett Cooper video that she put out on her own Instagram. We'll just watch a couple minutes because she gets into the, her own experiences and stuff, which I don't really care about. But
like one of those cringe influencers, guys. I don't know if anybody's joined yet when I sit here. And everybody mocks influencers for being like, I'm just gonna wait for obviously, I think we have all seen Steven Crowder's original video. And I hope that you have seen the response video that Jeremy Boring, the co-CEO of Daily Wire, put out. This is kind of a...
So, I mean, I think he's probably in his late 30s, but he was specifically talking about young up-and-coming talent. So that puts Brett right in the crosshairs. Ridiculous
debacle that has been so escalated. And I was not going to talk about it. Well, I was actually going to do a comment section episode about it. And I was going to make it lighthearted. And I was going to look at both sides. We were going to make fun of everybody. We were going to do memes. And then Steven Crowder released a third video where he told everybody that he secretly recorded a phone call with Jeremy Boring. It was supposed to be a friend catch-up. That's what Jeremy thought. And has now released this phone call on his YouTube channel saying, I didn't want to do this, and using that to further, dig this hole and further this situation. Because of that, I feel as though this situation has gotten a
Yeah, that's not young, especially when and he was specifically talking about young and up and coming. So Michael Knowles is well established at the Daily Wire. Hey, we got Trey in the building. Welcome, brother. Welcome. Always a pleasure to have you here. What does he say? Can't believe I agree with her. It sounds like Crowder just assumed it was an actual contract or felt like he was above negotiating because he's a big name. Exactly. I think that is exactly what happened. And I feel a little bit perturbed that if it's more than that, and he really is trying to take this and throw the Daily Wire under the bus, that I got swept up in the message that, oh, these young up and coming creators and da da da. Bro, if that's not what you're doing, then what? Cerebro says, I like Crowder, but the phone call gives me Amber Heard vibes. Yes, and again, it's not the fact that he recorded it. It was friends or not, it was a business call. Whatever. I would not be happy if I heard that you recorded me, but whatever. It's the playing online. The fact that you played it online. When all Jeremy did was say, yes, this was our contract, and here's why we think it's fair. That's all that happened. I think Steven just got accustomed to gaslighting shit to make the other party go into damage control mode. Kluke says above negotiation, or he expected a good offer to start to start, considering he's a known he's known Ben a decade and it's his company. Well, it's not Ben's company. Ben works for the Daily Wire. It's Jeremy's company.
A lot more serious. I don't want to do a comment section episode about it. It's not funny. I would rather just talk about it here. I did not want to get involved in this, much like the rest of the Daily Wire hosts, but now I kind of am. So I have some notes here because I want to make sure I hit all my points. But I have some important things that I want to cover. I also have my Olipop. I'm ready to go in case I get parched because I have some things I need to say.
Spill the tea, girl.
To start us off, just to lay the groundwork, the premise of capitalism, again, starting at the very basic level, is to trade goods and or services for compensation through free will. That's the most important point. Nobody is coercing you into anything. You are doing this through free will.
Free will.
I was not coerced into any contract with the Daily Wire. I chose to sign my contract after months negotiating. I actually signed 2 different contracts, talent contracts with Daily Wire. And I walked away from both of those negotiations and walked away from signing both of those feeling as though what I signed was fair and in good faith. My first contract, let's start there. I was 19 years old. I had 10 years of on-camera experience from acting, but they did not know me from Adam. I had never done serious political work before. I had made some videos, but I had a very, very small account. I had 7,000 followers December of last year. And I had...
Thank you for stopping by, Jess. I really do appreciate it. Even if you don't have the time, just stopping by to say hello means a lot. Thank you. Are y'all talking to each other? Or no existence in the contract offer that benefits me and my company, but still pays you well. Your job is to send back the terms you want, and we go from there. Yeah, that's business 101. When you have a negotiation, or when you have a proposal, the idea of that proposal is that I have certain things that I want, and you have certain things that you want. And a lot of those things are in direct competition. I want all the money for the least amount of work. You want the most amount of work for the least amount of money. As it should be. So let's work things out. That's what business is.
That first contract until I launched comment section and we proved that the show was going to be successful, that the risk had paid off. Rightfully so. At that point,
What was I unjustified in saying that Cloak does not understand the situation and is simplifying it? Is oversimplifying it? You're just wrong here, brother. You're just wrong. And maybe it's because you were watching Dick riding Ricada, who even a Destiny who doesn't have a dog in the fight was like, I can't even watch this. Ricada's just dick riding. In one sentence, he's like, but they're friends. You got to do this. And then he's saying exactly this. Well, you $50 million. I know he's making more than that. Why didn't you give it? Is it a business negotiation or not? Are they friends or not? Pick one.
Was paid less. Now, already see you guys bringing it up. In the leaked phone call that Crowder just posted, Jeremy talks about working with young talent specifically and uses the term wage slave. They've got to be a wage slave for a bit. If you've ever spoken with Jeremy Boring, you know that he calls himself the God King. And you know,
as soon as she said that, I was like, oh, yeah. Okay. That probably means absolutely nothing on a private phone call between friends.
That this is not supposed to be some intense, offensive thing. As the person that was that wage slave, I don't take offense to that. I don't take offense to two grown men using ball-busting phrases on a private phone call. Like, it's really not that serious. Probably wasn't the best term to be used, but I don't take offense to it. Every young person, no matter what industry you are in, you have to work your way up. I did that at my minimum wage Trader Joe's job. I did that at my minimum wage waitress job. I did that in my acting career. You have small.
And you guys have all done that at your jobs too.
Smaller contracts before you work your way up. I did that at Daily Wire before I proved myself, albeit it was more money than I had made before, but it was still, a beginner contract.
And so what she's saying, she made more money before. I don't know exactly what she did, but apparently she was on TV and she was making X amount of dollars. And then she went and worked for the Daily Wire for less money. She chose to take less money so that she could do her comment section show. She chose, as an adult, to sign that contract.
Like that is the
after she didn't sign the first thing they sent over. What did she say? After months of negotiation, saying, no, I want this. You got to put that out. You got to take that out. And they say, okay, we'll take that out. But then you got to do this. Okay, fair. Then that is what negotiation is. That is business. That is what business is. So if you think that there's somebody is doing something wrong because they're engaging in that activity, you don't understand business.
The only way I can say that is just life in every industry. There is not a victim here. Again, I chose to sign that contract. I chose to move to Nashville and do that. Now, when the risk paid off, their 19-year-old risk on a girl, and I'm still the youngest person at the company. So it's just putting that out there. Again, still taking a risk. When it proved to work out, the show was really taking off. I was offered a new contract, which is very kind of them. I didn't need a new contract. They didn't have any obligation to do that. But trading value for value, they said, your show is blowing up. We have a new contract for you. My compensation now matched the growing success of my show. And again, I negotiated for months. The first term sheet that I was given, I was like, no, I'm going to change this. I want this.
You heard that, right? You're listening?
I don't feel great about this. Could you answer this question? That's how negotiating works.
Is that how negotiating works? Cloak, have you ever signed a term deal contract licensing your content? I haven't. So maybe you do know more than me. But, Trey's saying what I'm saying. At that point, you send an offer back. And they call it, you redline it. You redline things that you don't like. I just learned this word, in watching all of this stuff. You send an offer back where we pay for production or cost or pay more money to try not to go into a PR smear. Because that will cause a lot of companies not to want to do business with you. And that is what's really scary here, is that if this is Crowder shooting his shot and whatever calculation he made was miscalculated, he's done. I mean, he could still be him, but he's reached the ceiling. Nobody is going to want to work with him after a term sheet, not a final contract that we're like, no, we're not changing any of this. It was an initial term sheet, and he blew up over it.
And what I got after those 3 months of negotiating, I negotiated for about 3 months for both of the contracts.
3 months. 3 months of going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. They have agents. They have managers for this stuff. There's a whole job for just that part. Again, I just want to make sure that you understand that. Because specifically, Jeremy says we think $50 million a year would be the bare minimum to get us in the door. Not that that's all we're willing to pay him. We just wanted to show him that we're serious, and we thought that this number would show him that. Yeah, at that point you send the offer back because that will send. Yeah, exactly.
What I
So I just want to hear the rest of her testimony about working with the negotiation things, and then we'll go back to the fire that is Candace Owens.
I believe to be very fair. And in case people get caught up in the details, I don't really know why this needs to be said, but my contract is not in the same structure as what was offered to Steven Crowder. Not in the slightest. And Jeremy said that in his video, and he said none of our talent has the same contract. At least in my opinion, that is true in my experience. So some of the concerns that Steven Crowder has, though he might be concerned with that, that's not in my contract. I fought for something different. But again, the point is I chose to sign and I chose to trade value for value in a capitalist society working for a business.
Value for value in a capitalist society.
How dare you?
I thought this was conservative media. Why is this an issue? Why is this an issue? All right. Okay. You guys handle it.
Now, in my case, the value for me is that being at this young age, I'm now 21, I have incredible mentorship at the Daily Wire. Like, I am growing a show and an audience with some of the greatest talent in entertainment and media that you could get. Like, that is not slavery. That is literal privilege. And I would sign that contract, both of those, over and over again to have the chance to be mentored by Ben Shapiro, Candace Owens, Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, Andrew Clavin, Jeremy Boring.
So she goes on, but basically it's just like, hey, I heard Jeremy speaking of he said wage slave. I know he was talking about me when he said wage slave, and I'm not offended. So I kind of got, I kind of clutched my pearls a little bit when I first heard that. But if she don't care, well, then why do we care? If she don't care, why would I care?
Of us, like, it's not he reached out independently to Daily Wire host and been like, are you dealing with these egregious terms? No, he is doing this purely, let's not even try to make this anything but a selfish act that was to benefit Steven Crowder, who wants to launch his own network. Because, and by the way, I gotta say this is the most important part of this, and nobody is talking about this. He receives the term sheet, okay? And he thinks it's so egregious that he's got to make this video 4 months later, right? I don't know what happened in those 4 months after they started negotiating. I guess Steven Crowder woke up, new year, new me. I hate the Daily Wire, so I'm going to go after them. He thinks it's so egregious. The first thing he does is counteroffer and say, let's start talking about 140 million, okay? So if it was so outrageous, why did he go back to them and say, no, actually, we can have this conversation, but let's start talking about 140 million?
Hey, we got Lee in the building. What is good, Lee? So it should be noted that Candace thinks Zelensky is just as bad as Putin. If you think that, that might be the most ridiculous thing anyone has ever said. I honestly don't know how you will feel confident with any information that is coming out of any country when you can't even trust the media in our country. Because I'm sure you've seen all about all the Nazi stuff with Ukraine, right? That's why you're saying that it's ridiculous that they're as bad. But oh wait, I thought Nazis were bad, like actual Nazis. That I don't get in. I mean, fair that you have that opinion. Fair that you don't like that she has that opinion. But when it comes to foreign affairs in the midst of a war, I don't trust anything from anywhere. All I know is that I don't know.
Right. It was only when the Daily Wire then turned that down that the term sheet became so egregious that he had to do something about it.
I'll just add real quick to everybody. Steven Crowder is coming on the show on Monday. I know he's not here to defend himself.
Did you speak to him? Because he might have recorded your
Don't worry. We gonna cover that too.
conversation. So you might
Well,
want
I
to come
did,
about whatever
but-
the hell it is you said to him.
I mean, yeah, my view is I was kind of surprised to hear that Steven recorded the phone call with Jeremy because I don't.
Oh wait, so it's not just me? It's not just me and sorry, whoever else said it? So that is a common thing that it's weird to record phone calls with your friends, even if they are friendly in business. Maybe it's not that weird, but it certainly is weird to play it on YouTube.
I don't know why you would.
Oh,
You know-
by the way, it should be mentioned that conversation. So they stopped negotiating completely, which Jeremy made clear in his video. This was over. He doesn't even know what this is coming from because this conversation stopped when Steven Crowder then came back with a counter term sheet offer of a glorious $140 million over X amount of years. And they said, we just can't do this, right? Then he
So it wasn't the terms. It was the number. I thought it was about the little guy. I thought it was about the little guy and not selling out to Big Con because they're in bed with big tech. But hey, 2.3x and we're talking. Come on, man. Sishless says some people record every single phone call they have, but still they don't blast it on the interwebs to make salty content. Generally. Yeah, that's the sticking point. It's not that he had that. It absolutely, whenever it comes to business stuff, that is that's kosher to record things, to just have a record of it. That's not the part that people are mad about.
He sat and he stewed and he said nothing until 1 week ago. He reaches out to Jeremy and he asks him to talk on the phone. And that was 1 week ago. That is the conversation that you guys are all hearing that he is playing right now. So he plotted this. This is a plot line. He planned to then record him to go back and to make this video.
How do you think? Wait. What company does she work for? How would she know what's going on at the Daily Wire when she works at the Daily Wire? What do you mean? You don't think they all had a conversation about this? Did I misread this? Why would Candace know about the number or an update to a contract if she wasn't even aware Crowder was being signed until the video? How is that contradictory? It's this is like, I mean, it's no, not at all. It's very obvious that if the second biggest name in conservative news is becoming a free agent, then the biggest name in alternative conservative news is going to want to do deals with them. And so because of the culture, the workplace culture that Candace is talking about, that Brett was talking about, why wouldn't they? They're not retarded. Why wouldn't they know that Jeremy wanted to bring on Crowder? What is contradictory about that?
If he had recorded this way back during negotiations, maybe you could say there was no plot. Why did he reach out to Jeremy exactly 1 week ago when they hadn't discussed anything pertaining to the contract and they said no and walked away last year around October, November? And then suddenly in January, he reaches out 1 week ago and says, hey, can we get on the phone? And he decides, maybe I should record this. No, it's because he realized he had nowhere left to go. And his next plot in this storyline, in this terrible childhood acting that he's doing right now, was, okay, I have to do my own thing now. And so I need to drum up some drama to get everybody that I know to believe that I am a martyr for our beliefs and they should dump their subscriptions to everybody else that's part of BigCon and join the Mug Club. How come?
And I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. I fell for it. Go look in the Discord. I fell for it. Chester was in there like, I don't know. Now, to be fair, I hadn't seen the Jeremy video yet, so I was just trying to get information. But I fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Now, I still don't have a firm belief on what happened. I definitely need to hear a response to all of this from Crowder. I'm certainly not taking Candace's word as gospel in this. But I mean, you know, and he's scheduled to be on the show on Monday. So obviously we're not going to be able to cover it on Monday because we're going to be doing our show. I wish we could just watch it and just like, that'll be my show. It's just, we're just going to watch Timcast. We probably wouldn't even get in trouble for that, but you know, but on Wednesday, we will definitely cover it. If it's not that crazy, I might just put out a video on Tuesday. So make sure you subscribe and make sure you know when new videos are coming out.
How can people not see? I mean, the writing is just so on the wall.
The fact that he recorded Jeremy says that he did plan. You know, look, I'm not here to impugn his honor. I think you're absolutely entitled to your view, having, you know, working with the Daily Wire and everything you've seen. But
this is why I love this dude. He just heard Candace go off, and not one thing that she said sounded ridiculous. But like I said, when I first was watching Crowder, I felt a level of sincerity that I don't often see from him. When he's talking about his twins being born, when he's talking about getting sick and possibly, you know, not making it through the surgery. That was the same kind of tone that I heard from Crowder in his original video. So again, I just don't know.
It does suggest that he knew he was calling Jeremy for this reason. I think Crowder is I don't know if I think it might be too far for me to believe that Crowder is trying to do this to pull subscribers from Daily Wire or make more money for himself, because the dude already makes a lot of money.
But he does not. He thinks that he is worthy of $140 million a year. Do you believe that Steven Crowder right now is making $140 million a year?
I bet he could.
You bet he could.
Absolutely.
You bet he could. But how's he got to do that? How's he got to start that? He just had a couple of kids. How's he got to start that? You launch a war in the conservative movement and you move people away from a business that you want to model. You know, I don't know who's modeling who. I don't know who started this first, but you basically say, I'm not them, come with me. And that's exactly what he's doing. Call a spade a spade.
And I heard this and I'm like, even if she's 80% wrong, even if she's 80% wrong, it's not like it's embarrassing. I'm not going to delete it, but if you look in the Discord, you can see. I'm like, oh, you know, Daily Wire, his job, or Jeremy Boring in the Daily Wire, his job is to keep the Daily Wire afloat. Steven Crowder's out here fighting for us.
Call a spade, okay? This was a plot line, and that annoys me because he dragged me into this plot line, okay? He dragged us all into this plot line. He's basically saying, at one point in his video, this is what really set me off. He's like, and so you might be noticing that a lot of these people, their viewpoints are sanitized, and this is why, this contract, this is why. Essentially saying that Candace is controlled, Matt Walsh is controlled, Michael Knowles is controlled, Brett Cooper is controlled, and now we know why, guys, because I have this contract.
And even if you think that, I mean, like they're wild. I mean, Brett not so much as Candace, but to think that, like, what is the logical line of thought there? What is it? What exactly is it that they're trying to control and push? If what they're saying already agrees with what you're trying to push. Getting a little skeptical here.
Which I've conveniently excerpted portions that could allow you to discern for yourself, but it's actually not that unreasonable as a starter conversation, which is what a term sheet is, right? And
right, Clark?
Instead, I'm just going to smear all of these people that are associated with Daily Wire. And that's why I'm pissed off. That's why I'm pissed off, because I then was fielding comments calling me a fraud because they thought that I agreed to these terms and that my voice was being controlled.
You know what I told Steven? I said, I think ideologically, I understand his right with the contracts, and I agree with the contracts. We don't.
So this where Tim's about to go into a little bit about how he runs his business and how it's different and all of this stuff. And this is really what put things in perspective for me. That there's not really anybody who is completely wrong, and it's just two competing interests. So I want you to listen to how he thinks about his business and the corporate environment that he wants to foster. And I think that Crowder would be more in line in terms of how I want to work, how I want my business. Not saying that Crowder would want to work for Timcast, but I think their ideologies on how to work would be closer than either Crowder or Tim and the Daily Wire. I think Tim and Crowder are more similar to each other.
Don't do contracts the way the Daily Wire does.
There was no contract. I just want to say that one more time.
Right. So contract, different term.
If you
terms.
know, you know.
I don't do terms the way the Daily Wire does. I also am, the way it's like the Joe Rogan story I often tell, that he booted me from his show twice and I didn't get mad at him. I was like, well, I'm kind of pissed off that he booted me twice, like happened twice, and I flew out to LA, but he doesn't owe me any favors. I'm not going to rag on Joe Rogan because he didn't do me a favor.
And speaking of which, I want to thank every one of you for being here. I know you can be doing anything else on a Friday night, but I am so happy that you are here.
If I was on a show, it'd be really great for me. It didn't work out. I'm going to carry on with my life and my business. I've negotiated with the Daily Wire. We couldn't figure out something that worked. We're very different in that sense. And I said, well, it was nice hanging out, and let's work on stuff in the future, and we'll make awesome stuff. I told Steven, I said, I think that the Daily Wire is a massive net positive, especially with like, what is a woman? I mean, that was a massive cultural force that got even mainstream, like moderate lefty types to be like, oh yeah, I've seen that.
They went all the way. That was it the Supreme, not the Supreme Court. What is that Kenji Brown Jackson person? I don't know, but she was asked, what is a woman?
And start this conversation.
Couldn't answer.
Then you did the BLM documentary, of course, that had, I don't think it was nearly as big as What is a Woman, but it certainly had a cultural response. These things are tremendous. And so my attitude is like, look, I don't like the contracts of like, they're very business-like, the very entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that Daily Wire does it. If someone came to me and said, we're going to get investors, we're going to get some prominent conservative voices, and we're going to launch a company that rivals Disney, I'd be like, man, I don't like Disney. And they'll go, yeah, but it will be America-loving, independently minded, meritocratic. I'll say, oh, I'll take that over Disney any day. And then
That's huge. That's huge. I did not understand what was going on here until he said that. Because it's not about Crowder versus Daily Wire. It's not about Crowder versus Jeremy Boring. It's about the actual, whatever you want to call it, the freedom movement, the conservative, the new, whatever you want to call it. These people, I would like to, obviously I'm not on that level, but I would like to think that I'm in, down the ranks, same type of content creator. We are trying to do something, to accomplish something, to change the landscape of discussion in this country. And so when I see this, that really pushed me over to like, yeah, Crowder, that wasn't it. Your enemy is not the Daily Wire. Your enemy is Disney and ABC and CNN, all these big legacy media companies that are preventing you from flourishing. It's not the Daily Wire that got you banned. They're just trying to do what they can do with the YouTube guidelines. And so once Tim said that, I listened to it again. Once he said that, I was like, yep, you got me.
I'd be like, man, I don't like Disney. And they'll go, yeah, but it will be America-loving, independently minded, meritocratic. I'll say, oh, I'll take that over Disney any day. And then I'll go and do my thing that I think should be the way I want it to be. And I'm not going to be mad at the Daily Wire for the Daily Wire doing a thing. Like,
yeah. Bill, what you're describing first and foremost are the free markets, right?
So what do you guys think of that specifically? I'm going to put up a poll. I don't know what to ask, but that aspect of it's not about Crowder versus Daily Wire. It's not about Crowder versus Jeremy Boring. It's about freedom-loving conservative, whether you want to call it conservative or just red-pilled or truth or whatever. Freedom, liberty-minded people against the people who are not liberty-minded people. The far leftists who want to control everything you think, not even everything you say, everything you think. That is the enemy. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think.
If you don't like it somewhere, leave. I thought we were conservatives. I thought that's what we were trying to preserve, right? A free market mentality. If Daily Wire is so awful, right, and so predatory and treating their talent so horrifically, they'd have no talent, right? Then literally, Steven Crowder wouldn't have to launch a war. He just have to launch an alternative business with better contract, and people would leave willingly. They would say, "There's more money there. There's better treatment. I'm leaving." That's how the free markets work, right? Because he did not feel. Maybe he's feeling a little insecure. He thought that he was a free agent. He feels like he's Tom Brady. Everyone's going to make me all these offers. And he felt like it came in extremely low. Tom Brady. I'm Tom Brady. Why am I getting offered $50 million? I should be offered $140 million. And the team says, no, thank you, Tom Brady. And then he goes, well, I'm effing Tom Brady. Well, the truth is, it's like, I think Steven Crowder was feeling
Are you there?
insecure. I think he was reeling after those negotiations. I think there are very few conservative networks that can offer him that money. He's actually, he's burned a few bridges, right? Fox News, he's burned a bridge. He's burned a bridge with the Blaze. How many other companies in the conservative movement does he think can reasonably afford to pay him what he thinks he's worth, right? The Daily Wire. So when he was done, I think that he was feeling tremendously insecure, right? When those negotiations failed in October or November, he stewed on it in November, stewed on it in December, came up in January and decided, okay, I'm going to have to launch my own outfit. I'm going to go after the Daily Wire. And his plot line included calling Jeremy Boring, catching him on camera. We only have seen a piece of this conversation. Jeremy has already tweeted that he called him like, hey, let's catch up. And now he was like, let's talk about the kids and Christmas. They were friends.
So whoever, I'm not calling anybody out, whoever said they were not friends, they were business associates. You just don't understand how business works. Those are not mutually exclusive. Maybe they should be, but they certainly are not. And there are people that you can get into business with that you are much closer to than people you would call strictly friends. Not every time, but that's what it is.
Very close friends. Okay. Steven Crowder has said they were friends, not colleagues, not associates, not, like I would say me and Matt Walsh and we're associates, but friends. He called his friends to talk about Christmas and his kids and said he recorded him and then dropped that recording a week later, pretending that he was doing this to be a martyr. I just don't see how people don't realize this guy is a fundamentally bad person. Like I don't understand how this is even a debate.
The phone call thing's rough. I mean,
who records their friends? With friends like these, who needs enemies? Who needs the left when we've got friends like these in the conservative movement?
But the other thing too is, I say this about Project Veritas. I think Veritas should release the raw when they do this stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff that Veritas has done that's been very, very important. But I'm often like, it could quash a lot of these arguments about deceptive editing if you just say like, we editorialized. Here's the raw footage you can see for yourself, minus private information if there's like addresses or phone numbers. In this context, I'm really not a fan of snippets being released because it's like, okay, well, what led up to that moment? Like,
when he said wage slaves, we don't know the context of. It sounds to me like he was potentially asking a question about, well, do you do this, with all your time? He's like, well, this is different. You're a big person coming in, and we don't have to put as much money behind you, so we're concerned that you're going to have an ad drop. If you're a new person,
that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say. So let's get to what Traditionalist says, and then I want to play that back. I disagree that it's only a leftist thing wanting to control and influence what you think. You are correct, sir. But yes, it'll be hella more likely the Daily Wire considered Crowder an ally and not an enemy that needed to join forces. Imagine that. Imagine if they were working together and because the Daily Wire is, aside from Candace, who's a wild card, even Brett, they're all very buttoned up. And when you have 5 or 6 really buttoned up people that you really can't, honestly, I can't tell the difference if you put some voice thing on any one of them. Aside from the speed at which Ben Shapiro talks, I would not be able to tell the difference. Their messages are essentially, they're very, they're not the same people, but their messages are essentially the same. And so to have somebody in there between the Ben Shapiro, Andrew Cleveland, Michael Knowles, Matt Walsh, and Candace Owens that isn't Brett, I think that would have been amazing. But I guess that's not what Crowder had in mind.
Moment.
Like, when he said wage slaves, we don't know the context of. It sounds to me like he was potentially asking a question about, well, do you do this, with all your time? He's like, well, this is different. You're a big person coming in, and we don't have to put as much money behind you, so we're concerned that you're going to have an ad drop. If you're a new person, you're saying you come to the Daily Wire, and by this is completely a guess. I have no idea. You come to Daily Wire, and you're like, hey, I want to try this thing. Can you make my name bigger? Essentially, you're saying like, here are the wages we're going to pay you. You're going to work your ass off. You know what I mean? And you have the benefit of having the entire Daily Wire network behind you. I think he was probably trying to describe, again, I have no idea, the different mentality between getting talent like Steven Crowder and trying to get him into contract versus getting talent that's new and is looking to become a Daily Wire because they basically absorb all of the benefit. Again.
And so those are all things that, Steven doesn't have to worry about. Shouldn't have to worry about. But Jeremy does. So when you make it all about yourself, the Tom Brady thing was a great analogy, not necessarily because of anything that Tom Brady did or didn't do. I don't know. I don't follow NFL anymore. But thinking that he was the guy. And like, bro, the market will tell you. You can't pull on some liberal bullshit. The market is what it is. You are worth what people are willing to pay.
Again, I don't know, but
it is exactly what he was
that's
saying.
probably what he was saying.
Yeah,
and now he excerpted.
Hey, we got Unsatiable in the building. What is good? You are correct. I am a cult leader. I am the Indian Jesus here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. And now you are part of the cult. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Wage slaves, as if he like was these slaves that are working for me. I mean, it's a colloquialism. You know what I mean? He's using that term not seriously, but it allows him to play that excerpt and make it sound like this is how the Daily Wire treats their employees. I mean, it's just horrible stuff that he's doing with Daily Wire.
Which goes back to this was comment, and it's definitely not just a leftist thing because we just saw Crowder do it. I just need a robe with a hood. Hey, send it on over. I'm down. If you guys got a whole garb for me, I will wear it every single show.
Jeremy was saying that if a new person with no audience comes to Daily Wire, they're basically going to put them on a contract with a wage, and then they're going to own all the content that they say they're going to own. Then when the person's done off the contract, they can go continue to be famous and successful, although Daily Wire will still own the stuff that they paid for to get produced while that person was there. And he used the term wage slave. Now, I'm with you. I don't think the term, the words themselves are that big of a deal.
No, but he wants it to come across like a big idea, like it's a very big deal because he's relying on business ignorance. He keeps doing
We got Kelly in the building. What is good, brother? What is good? Always glad to see you. I needed you here because you and Tyler were the only ones who were listening to the conversation in the Discord panel that you should all join. It's free. You were the only one listening, and it's very interesting to see that. It would be nice if Chester could just told me what Jeremy was talking about and summarized it for me, but. I agree with what Chester was saying a lot more now after I've seen what Jeremy has said. But welcome, brother. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
He keeps relying on business ignorance and he's appealing. I mean, this is literally a socialist tactic. He's appealing to the Amazon employees who want to stick it to the man and then they boycott and they picket because they're not getting paid, $50,000 an hour and being treated to ice cream once a week. He's appealing to people that he's like, okay, think of yourself as an employee, not as a business person, right? This is a business person mindset. This is what I get from this conversation. And obviously I'm privy to these talks with Jeremy and Caleb. This is who
I find it interesting that we have a bunch of, or at least two Candace haters in the chat, and nobody's really disagreeing with what she's saying. I mean, where is she wrong? I'm not saying she's not. I'm asking.
Negotiate my contracts with. And there have literally been times, because I'm a big girl, and I go and I sit with them where I say, there's no way I'm signing this line, They move an inch this way, I move an inch that way. They move an inch this way, and then here we are. We meet here in the middle where we all feel.
Wait. So you're saying you are telling me that you negotiated your contract? You didn't just throw the company under the bus because you didn't like their term sheet? Trey says Tom was perfect because the Patriots are known for very tough negotiations and underpaying players, and even let Tom go because he wanted too much money. Well, even better than I even knew. Thank you for that, Trey. System says it's also not like Crowder joining the Daily Wire would only benefit the Daily Wire. Besides the money, Crowder would also still increase his clout in a major, major way. And you are absolutely correct. Luke says, oh, well, I disagree with the things. I'm just not going to try to convey that through text. Well, I better see you in the panel then. I don't want to be like, where's Kluke? I thought he had so much to say. And now he's gone. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, so there's a little bit more of this, and then I want to get to Ben Shapiro because he went, he didn't go quite as crazy as this, but how Ben Shapiro can be, and he went laser focused on the actual problems with what was going on.
I feel like this is a good contract and nobody's a slave, right? Because in order to sign a contract, if you fully comprehend it, you're not a slave. You're just not a slave.
Something I think about Jeremy personally, and not too relevant, but I think he enjoys negotiating.
I think
so. If you want to work with Daily Wire, you got to know that going into it. Jeremy enjoys negotiating.
I want to read a super chat.
And that is a businessman.
Real quick, because this is an important point. IDG says Daily Wire's agenda, make profit. Crowder's agenda, saving American experiment. Exhibit, JBP deletes tweet supporting Crowder. Exhibit B, your poll. I'll say.
So did you guys hear about that? So Jordan Peterson originally tweeted out Crowder's initial video, and not really saying too much, but you know, kind of in support, saying like, "Hey, this is going on to our boy Crowder," and then it was deleted. That tweet with the video. So from the guy who wouldn't delete the Ellen Page tweet, I'm going to assume that he made a decision on his own that somebody was like, "Hey, you know that's about us, right?" And it was like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I'll take it down right away." That's my assumption from that.
Tell you what I think. I don't completely disagree with that. I think the Daily Wire is a machine. I think the Daily Wire is a machine that is not the ideological like system that I would personally build.
Again, pay attention to what Tim is saying. This is the Daily Wire is a machine. The Daily Wire is a machine. That's not a good or a bad thing. That is just what it is. And if we follow that with what he's about to say, it makes things so much clearer. We do things very differently here. The people who are here are on salary with no terms. Like if Pop Culture Crisis got banned
this
from
is a small company, that's how it is when you work for me. I have a company too, a small company where we have 7 employees, and it's familial. You see, Savannah's downstairs. We get to hang out and do fun things. We're a small company.
I don't know if he's going to say it specifically in this clip, but they get unlimited vacation and unlimited sick time. If you just don't show up, then like maybe in a month they'll be like, "Hey, you good?" And that's the kind of thing that I think works for Tim. Is very different from the type of business that the Daily Wire does, is a lot like what Crowder is looking for. And so I think Tim is in a very good position to assess what's going on.
If we grew and we suddenly had 400 employees, things have to get a lot more serious and professional.
That's true. But and I've talked to Jeremy a lot about this. And so it may just be we're small. And then, you know, he's like, when you get bigger, man, you're going to run into these things. And I'm like, maybe. But here's my thing. I like the Daily Wire. I think the Daily Wire.
I said shit. Me too.
Is I think Jeremy and you know, everybody else involved, and you know, Jeremy's one who made the video, are seeking to make money and use that money and build more and make more money. If the Daily Wire succeeds and makes money and then makes more movies and makes more documentaries, that means we're going to get more What Is a Woman? It means we're going to get more, you know, Gina Carano's. It means Hollywood will be weakened.
This is the point.
It means as
Hollywood will be weakened.
Hollywood falls from the hill.
Hollywood falls from the hill.
A machine that actually, at least to some degree, shares our values will be there. It may be, in your opinion, a cold, faceless machine, but at least the cold, faceless machine is saying meritocracy. I'm like, okay, well,
LOL.
How do you disagree with that? How do you disagree with that? That is a perfect analogy. I don't even know if it's an analogy, but that is exactly what's going on. That we have the big corporations, you know, Disney being the big one, and then of course, you know, with all the other legacy media that specifically in news, a lot of it owned by Disney anyway. And then you have another machine that is very business-like and is following that model, but they align a lot closer to what we believe and what we want to see, and just closer to reality. That doesn't mean that it's perfect for everybody. It's just, that's what it is. And so while Timcast is its own thing, separate from a machine like a Disney or a Daily Wire, Ladder or Crowder wants to be that way, but they're not. They're just not.
Well, to anyone who thinks that Steven Crowder is not doing this to make money, like, I mean, I just have to outwardly laugh. He's the person in a disguise. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing, right? He's like, I'm here because I care about all of you. That's why I'm recording my friend and doing this crappy thing where I literally could have just said, no, I don't like those terms, and then said to everybody, I'm starting my own outfit.
That is why, because I was so heavily, I guess, caught up by what Crowder was saying. When you put it like that, it's like, damn, I done got swindled. Once again, I got swindled. Listen to it again.
I care about all of you. That's why I'm recording my friend and doing this crappy thing where I literally could have just said, no, I don't like those terms, and then said to everybody, I'm starting my own outfit.
Why was that not how you went forward, Crowder? That is what I need to know. And hey, that is a legitimate question. I am waiting for that answer. I'm not posing that as to say that he didn't, you know, do this or did do anything. I just have that question. Why was what Candace just said? Why was that not your MO?
Fair. You walk away all the time. You have to go.
So there's another big point that comes up that we don't necessarily have to watch this whole thing, but
pulled upon who is the domain for StopBIGCon was registered on 12/12/2022.
So if you didn't hear that, the domain name for StopBIGCon, this brand new thing that Steven Crowder is starting because of how he's seen that even the Daily Wire is just like a Fox News or anything else that's going to have these ruthless and predatory business practices. But he started the website before he even left the Blaze. What exactly does that mean? In the context, I don't know the full extent, but it certainly wasn't as spontaneous as he made it seem. And so now that we have that, it's like, what else did you kind of fudge? What else did you kind of bullshit?
Whois.com.
StopBIGCon was registered on 12/12/2022.
The internet sleuths are going to catch him.
Crowder announces he left the Blaze and asked people to sign up for Mug Club on 12/15/2022.
It was all the fact, like, listen, I love you, internet sleuths, because this is, of course, was going to happen, and this is the problem: is that Steven has to realize people are smart. Okay, people are smart; they're going to figure it out. Oh, so you happened to look up the.
So this one is perhaps it actually is Crowder's MO, starting his own outfit. Oh, I understand that. The question is, why did he need to throw his closest ally, the Daily Wire, under the bus in order to do it? To finish this comment, dumping a jerry can onto the bonfire could be a great way to kickstart your party if you don't burn your face off. Well, unfortunately, it seems like his face is burned off.
Yeah, to register.
And again, for now, he's going to be on this show on Monday, so we will see. And he still has, time to respond. If I were him, I would probably wait until I was there. Yeah, I would probably wait until I was there, because if you're being shady and you put out another thing that doubles down on what you're doing, then that could send it off the deep end. Whereas if this is the case, and he did do that, and he did burn his face off, then the only plan of action that he has at this point is to go in, tuck his tail between his legs, be like, yeah, I got lost in the sauce, and I went out, I was too close to the forest to see the trees, and I didn't realize that it's not me against the Daily Wire, it's us against Disney. I would accept that. I certainly am never going to look at him the same way again, but I would accept that.
Register BIGCon. Yeah, let's confirm that.
What's
Stop
the
BIGCon.
website?
Yeah, I got it right here.
Is it
There you go.
StopBIGCon.com?
Right now,
You can see it right here. Let's get rid of that. It says, is it up here? Domains, Google. Where is it? Oh, so they're looking at the website here for StopBIGCon.com. Registered 12/12/22.
we are
12/12/2022. So this was registered. StopBIGCon was registered before he announced he was leaving the Blaze. Is that what it was?
Isn't that so weird?
He announced he was leaving the Blaze on 12th. Well, look, guys, and again, Crowder will be here on Monday. He can tell us about all of this.
And then he recorded his conversation with Jeremy 2 months after that.
I just want to say, like, we're in the middle as per usual. Candace was booked a month and a half ago, and this whole drama lights up. And then we talked with Crowder. We asked him to come on and talk about this. So.
All right, so before we move on, we got some other stuff to show you. I told you we had a lot tonight. So Kluk says, I seriously doubt Crowder is going to come out anything other than ahead here, regardless of personal opinions or who's correct in the situation. I hope you're right. Because I enjoy Crowder's content. I enjoy his existence on the internet. I'm just not I'm not as optimistic as you are about it. So it says, at least Crowder has got the entire weekend to think of a great logical argument to counter all the flack he got in order to rationalize his narrative. It's going to be, at least it's going to be a good story. It's going to be a good story. So we'll see. Hopefully, if there is something, we can, we'll touch on it on Monday. Which, hey, that might be the monetization party, and that's gonna be fun. But we are definitely gonna keep up with this. But yeah, so that was basically what was good with the Timcast episode. Now let's hear from everyone's favorite Jew, Ben Shapiro.
Well, folks, I'm sure many of you have seen the controversy that has broken out between, I would say, our former friend Steven Crowder and those of us here at the Daily Wire.
Either this has to stop, or I'm going to have to stop.
And it makes me sick to my stomach. I know that my business partner, Jeremy Boring, has made him sick to his stomach as well, because we had always considered Steven a friend. I was Steven's first lawyer. I helped negotiate his contract with Fox News, going all the way back. It's got to be at least over a decade.
You guys have no idea how badly I want to speed this up, but I know you can't handle it.
And Steve and I had always been very friendly. I know Jeremy was even friendlier with Steven, had counseled him in very rough times. I had personally attempted to intervene when Steven was demonetized in June 2019 on YouTube. I actually sounded off so loudly that the people at YouTube reached out to me, and Susan Wojcicki, the head of YouTube, got on the phone with me, and I reamed her out over demonetizing Steven. And I hope it made a difference. Look, I think that Steven is an incredibly talented comedian. I also think that what he is doing to my friend Jeremy Boring right now is one of the most disgusting things I have ever seen in politics. It really is one of the,
well, maybe not the disgusting things I've seen in politics, but among friends, certainly.
Ugliest things I've ever seen. In order to understand what's happening, I think you have to understand a couple of things. So for those who missed the story, basically, we offered Steven a term sheet, a non-binding.
Okay, so because he's just going to recap this part, I'm just going to speed up this part a little bit, because we've already heard it 3 times, but he, has his own perspective. So we're just going to speed up a
term sheet.
little
A non-binding term sheet is exactly what it sounds like. It is a list of terms for a proposed negotiation for a contract. And the negotiation happens, then you come to a final contract. That is what a non-binding term sheet is. His agent had solicited us to make him an offer. This is when he was in his closing days with the Blaze. And so we sent him over a non-binding term sheet for $50 million over the course of 4 years, with an additional 2-year option at $25 million. That is, as it sounds like, a lot of money. But we thought that Steven is worth it, because Steven is, again, an incredibly talented guy with a very, very large following. And if you want to hear the actual terms of the term sheet, all you have to do is go to the description on this particular video, or head on over to YouTube, and you can see my business partner, Jeremy Boring, read the terms word for word. Steven's original video in which he attacked us. So this week, Steven attacked Jeremy Boring and attacked the Daily Wire, and suggested that if we had essentially offered him an enslavement contract that would have robbed him of all of his freedom and made him subject to the whims of big tech and all the rest of this kind of bullshit. And it's just not true. Jeremy, unlike Steven, read the entire text of the term sheet.
Okay, so now we're getting into the meat
on the air, and goes through it piece by piece and explains exactly how it works. Mm-hmm. And in short, all the contract says is, we are offering you this gigantic sum of money, and if you start to lose money for the company and for yourself, because you lose YouTube, for example, and we both lose money, so you lose some money. Because this is typically how contracts work. On this show, for example, if I lose advertisers and the revenue of the show goes down, then I lose revenue personally, because the revenue of the show has gone down. So again, if you want the details, the legalistic details of all this, you can check out Jeremy's video. It is absolutely comprehensive and irrefutable, because again, he reveals, I've never seen anybody else do this, he reveals literally the entirety of the what was supposed to be confidential term sheet that Steven decided to partially leak for his own benefit.
That's another sticking point of a lot of people are not happy with even him. They're not happy with the whole thing, but the fact that he easily could have made his own graphics with what the contract said in a way to much better obscure any company that is going to be 2 letters. Like when you have when you black out something that's that big, well, it's not really that hard to tell who it is. Now, I didn't get it, but apparently a lot of other people did. So it's stuff like that that really is pushing me a little bit closer and closer and closer to, I think he's being shady.
And this is the part that's really ugly. Okay, so the part that's really ugly is the betrayal of friendship. So last night, Steven Crowder, in response to Jeremy reading the entire term sheet and saying somehow Steven misconstrued this and is using this to attack us, and launch a website called StopBIGCon, as though we are in the pocket of big tech.
And I do believe that again, this was a matter of a lot of ignorance, a lot of arrogance on the side of Crowder. And I very much understand where he's coming from ideologically, but this was just an L. This was just an L.
We are in the pocket of big tech. We who have invested literally tens of millions of dollars building alternatives to big tech. We who put up people like Matt Walsh and Candace Owens and my show. We who have been attacked by Facebook.
Let me get one more of you to hit that poll.
And have been attacked in the legacy media all the time.
50,
and who are routinely demonetized. Well, yes, nailed it. We were in the pocket of big tech. This was Steven's line of attack. And supposedly, this line of attack came from that term sheet, right? The idea was that the term sheet was doing the work of big tech because the term sheet suggested that if he got demonetized from YouTube and we both lost money, that he would also lose money. What he apparently wanted us to do was continue to pay him extraordinary sums of money, even if the show was losing money, which is called a charity. It is not called a business. The hardest thing to do in the conservative movement or anywhere else is to, one, run a successful business, and two, make a difference. We here at Daily Wire do both things. In fact, we try to generate a profit so we can continue to make a difference. And it turns out when you lose money, you don't actually have the wherewithal or the resources in order to do things like spend enormous quantities of money making What is a Woman by Matt Walsh, or making The Greatest Lie Ever Sold by Candace Owens, or funding the investigative reporters who shift the Virginia gubernatorial race by uncovering what happens.
So Kluk says, I think Ben and the rest of Daily Wire underestimate how easily Crowder will perceive slights against the growth of the movement as slights against him personally. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. Well, let's against him personally, even if Daily Wire didn't mean it that way. Yeah, I 100% agree with you. But that's the point. If that you're offended by just regular business practices, and so you go scorched earth on your friends and blow up what's supposed to be a confidential term sheet, you said it yourself. Even if they didn't mean it that way, and of course they didn't mean it that way. Why would they mean it that way? And so again, it comes to, did he have ulterior motives? Was he got this offer and playing up it's not for me. It's for you guys, the young ones coming up. You're going to sign these contracts? And then we go back to Brett and she's like, what are you talking about? I'm living the dream right now. You know, don't even ask how much it would take for me to sign with the Daily Wire. I'm not even that conservative. Hey, maybe that's a sticking point. Jeremy?
In Loudoun County, or put out good information each and every day to rebut the evils of the...
We're at 50-50 again. There's 5 of you here. One of you haven't voted. Come on, one vote. You're the deciding vote.
Biden administration, or spend the millions of dollars it takes to sue the Biden administration to stop the OSHA vax mandate, or any of that kind of stuff. That costs money.
Sedationalist has to leave. Thank you so much for hanging out, brother. I very much appreciate you stopping by. And yes, we will enjoy the Discord party. Again, Discord, the link is in the description. It is free to join. And right after the stream, we go over there to have our panel discussion. So we don't have to worry about exactly what they're talking about, all this YouTube guideline BS. And we got Jess's back. We're done with Candace. So you're good. We're at 6 votes. I appreciate you guys. We were 50-50. So I need we got to have a resolution to this. Have you seen the Jeremy Boring video in full? Yes or no?
And in order to make that money, you have to run a business. You can't run a charity for your hosts. That apparently is what Stephen wanted. But Stephen decides that this is supposedly his story is that he was so offended by the term sheet, he just had to speak out. He had to stand up for the little guy, right? Okay, there are a bunch of problems with this. I was willing to stay silent on all of this, generally speaking, and not get into the weeds and not get into Stephen's personal conduct until the point when he personally recorded a phone call with my best friend, Jeremy Boring, and then proceeded to release that publicly. That is disgusting. It is disgusting, and it is vile on a pure human level.
Yep.
Jeremy, again, has gone out of his way for Stephen more times than I can count. He has counseled Stephen personally. And Stephen decided in premeditated fashion that he was going to tape his friend and then release it to grow his email list. It is that simple. And I'll show you the timeline here, because the case here is that, again, this term sheet that he got, he was so offended by it, he just had to speak up. He couldn't be held back any longer. He had to speak up on behalf of the little guy. Okay, I'm going to read you the timeline of what happened during this negotiation and when he decided to tape his friend, his supposed friend, Jeremy Boring. So here is the timeline here.
All right. So this is, I mean, again, this is somebody who has a long-standing relationship with Crowder. Obviously, a long-standing relationship with Jeremy. He obviously works for Jeremy. So if there's going to be bias, it's going to be in that way. But personally, I feel confident enough in Shapiro to not let that color his commentary.
October 5th, 2022 is when we sent Stephen the supposedly evil term sheet.
October.
So evil. So you would imagine that if the term sheet was that evil. October 6th, he couldn't have held back. How could you guys do this? It would be just October 5th is when we sent him this term sheet offering him $50 million over 4 years plus a 2-year extension for $25 million. You know, basketball player type money. On November 2nd, Stephen called up Jeremy and said, I want $30 million a year and a bunch of changes to the term sheet. I'm not going to redline the term sheet. I'm not going to edit the term sheet. I just want you to send me a brand new offer.
So already we have a month. It took a month to get him to the place where, nope, I'm not going to do these types of things. Just give me the deal I want.
On November 6th, 4 days later, remember, this is after he's already sounded off. He's got the term sheet. He's had it for a month. November 6th was election night. You'll recall, if you're a Daily Wire fan, Stephen Crowder appeared on our election night coverage. Everything was very friendly. Everything was very chummy. Everything was great.
But wait, somebody was saying they're not friends, right? They're not friends? Sounds like friends to me.
November 14th or thereabouts.
Hey, we got Jay in the building. What is good? Thank you for showing up, hitting that like button. So glad you are here. We are trying to get to the bottom of what is going on in this conservative alternative media civil war. Welcome to the party, Jay.
We decided that we couldn't meet his demands, that his demands were not rational in business terms, that he wanted too much money, and all the rest of it.
So this is now 6 weeks in.
So we let him know, no hard feelings. We're still friends, just like we do in every contract negotiation. As Tim Pool said.
In every contract negotiation. So nothing was out of the ordinary here.
On his show last night, we've had contract negotiations with Tim, and we disagreed, and we went our separate ways, and we still like Tim. Tim still likes us, and all the rest. Okay. So November 14th or thereabouts, we told.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me? You are telling me that the Daily Wire can do negotiations with people and not have them hate the Daily Wire afterwards? No.
Stephen, that we couldn't meet his demands. Fast forward another month, December 12th, he registered the site StopBIGCon. Okay, that's when he registered it. Remember, October 5th is when he received the terms. November 14th is when we said we could not meet his demands. December 12th is when he registered StopBIGCon because he knew that 3 days later, he was going to be announcing that he was leaving the Blaze. He needed a plan, and attacking us was the plan. December 15th, he announced he was leaving the Blaze. A month after that, he texted Jeremy in friendly fashion to ask if they could talk. On January 9th, he called Jeremy and proceeded to tape him. Without permission, without Jeremy's knowledge, he proceeded to tape a person who was supposedly his friend. And remember, this is all based on the passion of the upset that he had over a term sheet that was submitted to him on October 5th. It is a month. It's actually 36 days after. So January 17th is when he launches StopBIGCon. So just to get this straight, just to get the timeline.
Jess, what do you mean? He's telling you the whole thing right now.
And straight, because this is what we would call a premeditated.
So the whole thing so far that he just said, starting in October, they sent him a term sheet, and then nothing happened. And then 4 months later, Stephen Crowder comes out with a redacted contract saying, "Oh, this is so horrible. Big conservative media is trying to take over everything, just like Disney, and they're just as bad as the leftists in the mainstream media news." That's exactly what he's talking about right now.
He did move.
So let's go back. Let's just go back a little bit for Jess so that we see what exactly.
So 30. It is a month. It's actually 36 days.
So that's all what's happening. 36 days. They're working on contract negotiations for Stephen Crowder to become part of the Daily Wire.
January 17th is when he launches StopBIGCon. So just to get this straight, just to get the timeline straight, because this is what we would call a premeditated move in an attempt to grow your email list. This means 104 days elapsed between when Stephen Crowder received the term sheet that we submitted to him and when he launched StopBIGCon. 104 days.
So that doesn't necessarily mean everything, but it does mean a lot. That after he realized that the Daily Wire was willing to give him at the very least, their starting offer was $50 million. And of course, in business negotiations, you, as the person paying, you start with the lowest. The person asking you start with the highest, and you come and you meet in the middle. But he couldn't go through regular negotiations like a normal human being. He had to use this as an opportunity to what seems like, at this point, to be launching his own version of the Daily Wire and fighting for the people and small content creators, and not having these licensing deals where they take all your content, they produce everything, and therefore they own it, which seems, and they only own you and your rights and everything as long as you work for them. So you sign a 5-year deal, everything you do in that 5 years. Oh, I forgot about my candle over here, and I saw smoke, and I was like, what in the hell? What was I saying? But yeah, so they, in that 5 years, whatever you create belongs to the Daily Wire, but all of the followers and subscribers and everything that you've got from being part of this huge company and huge organization, you get to keep that. You get to keep the clout, that's what it's all about.
And it means that 36 days elapsed between when he decided to attack Daily Wire and Jeremy by purchasing StopBIGCon and when he called Jeremy to tape him.
I was talking earlier about how I felt a level of sincerity with Crowder in his original video. I'm also seeing a stronger sense of sincerity that I see even less often from Shapiro, mainly because I don't watch him as much, but he is definitely hurt by this.
So that means well over 3 months elapsed, again, between when he received this egregiously evil term sheet, which, by the way, is not egregiously evil. The term sheet is perfectly legitimate. It was the basis for further negotiation. There have been moves on both sides, but there's nothing wrong with saying to a person who produces a show, one, you have to produce a certain number of shows, and if you don't, we're not going to pay you for the shows that you don't produce. And two, if your show begins to lose money, you also lose money. This is how business works. This is how the media works. This is how capitalism works. We are not communists. We do not pay people in order to not generate revenue. We cannot run a business and keep it functional and employ 300 people and have the money to spend on all the wonderful projects that we like to do, on the $100 million we're going to spend on kids content, on the suing of Joe Biden's administration, we can't do any of that stuff unless we are a profitable company.
Boom. And so Jess has it. Why attack? Can't you stop BIGCon? Which again is not something that already was in the lexicon. That wasn't there was no such thing as BIGCon 3 days ago. Steven Crowder made that up. And he is now saying that, like, obviously in the same way that we say like big pharma or whatever. And he's pointing that insult at the Daily Wire, who is a lot bigger than him, but in terms of like MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, any of those, much smaller, much more on the ground, much more transparent, and just more honest. And so, yes, he could have declined the offer. He absolutely could have negotiated to get a better offer. But that's why, even, just not really being in this space, saying this, that's what it's like. Of course he could have done that. If somebody who's not even in the weeds with who Ben Shapiro and Andrew Klavan and Michael Noah, if somebody outside kind of just looking in can see that, what was Crowder thinking? What was he thinking? Trey says, funny how some alternative conservatives media personalities, that's a mouthful, praise capitalism until capitalism doesn't work in their favor and they cry about it. That's what's really frustrating. It's like, bro, if you wanted more money, ask for more money, which he did. And if they say no, then just do your own thing, as you have been doing. But you haven't been doing your own thing. You've been doing your show on The Blaze, and that is done. And so going back to the Tom Brady thing, you thought that you could just come out here and everybody would want to suck your ass and have you on their network. Come to find out that, me personally, I will watch Crowder if it's there. but I'm not going behind a paywall to watch Steven Crowder. I think he's entertaining. I think the best things he does are the change my mind segments, but anybody can do that. So I think he horribly overestimated his value.
We don't pay people just for the fun of it. So that means this is totally premeditated. It is an attempt to grow an email list by deliberately misconstruing terms of a perfectly legitimate non-binding term sheet for a person that I personally and Jeremy, have gone out of our way to help multiple times. A person who then claims that we are the big shills for YouTube, right? We're the ones who are shilling for big tech. So what's his claim on that? His claim.
So that's what, Jess, that's when Steven Crowder is saying big con. He's saying these people, Ben Shapiro, Andrew Klavan, Michael Knowles, Candace Owens, all those people, whether you like them or not, they are on the same team when it comes to political ideology. Yet he's throwing that type of shade at literally friends.
Is that we're shilling for big tech by saying that if you get banned from YouTube and we lose money because of that, then you also lose money. Well, I noticed that someone else makes the vast bulk of his living via the exposure he receives on YouTube, and his name is Steven Crowder. Steven has a bigger following on YouTube than I do. He has a massive following on YouTube. He's a YouTube superstar. He has 6 million followers on YouTube. He doesn't want to be banned on YouTube. By the way, he doesn't have to be demonetized in order to continue. The demonetization does not mean that he doesn't indirectly make money on YouTube. The exposure he receives on YouTube allows him to push people to Mug Club.
What I don't understand is that, yes, as was brought up before, his Mug Club, which is basically just his, his own private thing where he'll do, an hour or so on YouTube, and then all the stuff that he can't say on YouTube will say, come over to Mug Club. It's their own website. They do video hosting, whatever. I don't understand, especially because he didn't own the Mug Club content. That belongs to the Blaze. Why not just keep that, even if you have to call it something slightly different, do that same thing, talk about whatever you can talk about on YouTube, and then drive more subscriptions to the Daily Wire. So that when it comes for your next negotiation, remember, Brett talked about signing 2 different contracts after she was doing so well. They brought it to her. She didn't even have to ask. They brought it to her and said, hey, you're doing so well, we're going to pay you more money. What made Crowder think that that was not an option for him and he had to go? I know I keep saying scorched earth. I don't know another phrase for it. I use postal with Candace, but what else do you say?
He knows this. This is why he has a piss off YouTube segment, which is smart, right? He does the same thing on his show that I do on my show. Exactly the same thing. You will hear me on the show when I discuss COVID. I'm about to say a bunch of things I can't say on YouTube. So head on over to Daily Wire Plus and subscribe and hear the rest of it.
That is what we're going to be doing as we build up my Discord server. So that is exactly what the Discord is going to be, just so you know.
Steven does the same thing. He says, I'm going to have my piss off YouTube segment in which he avoids saying the things that will get him permanently banned on YouTube, but directs people to his site. So is he a shill for big tech?
So the relevance there, for those of you who are not too familiar with conservative alternative media talking points, the idea that you have content behind a paywall to some people means that you are buying into the guidelines of YouTube and saying, they don't want you to say this, that, and the other. So I'm not going to say this, that, and the other. So I'm falling in line. But as Tim Pool likes to bring up all the time, is it worth it to say the one thing that you want to say and then get banned and not be able to say anything? Or is it better to say 99% of the things that you want to say, that you can say, and then you just leave for those who are interested, can pay? Why is that a bad thing? Why is that shilling for big tech? Because you're trying to exist and make a living on YouTube. It's not the Daily Wire who's making the YouTube guidelines. It's just not them. Why? I don't understand. I don't get it.
Is he a shill for big tech? Because if he were really not a shill for big tech, apparently, he would just say whatever he wants any day. He would just say it any day. And if they knock him off, they knock him off. But he's not doing that because he's not a moron. Steven's not a moron. He apparently is just a bad person who tapes his friends and then releases the tapes for personal gain. I'm personally insulted by Steven's behavior here.
I would be too. The fact that, I mean, we only got 3 votes, but the fact that 2 of you said that it was okay to leak the recording, I would love to. I would love for you to identify yourselves and have that conversation. I'm willing to drop the link to have that conversation here because that is crazy that you think it's okay. Not because again, I capitalized leak. We've established that it's okay to record the conversation, but y'all are saying that it's okay that he leaked it.
Here, I'm more insulted. It has nothing to do with me because he hasn't actually said anything about me. It has to do with you don't get to attack my best friend and suggest that my best friend is some sort of shill for big tech when we spend every day, literally every day in this business, attempting to fight big tech and to win. When we spend every day trying to bring good content to people who can't get it in a lot of other ways.
And whether you agree with what they're doing, whether you agree with what they say, the fact is they believe it. They are doing what they believe is right. If you disagree, that is fine. Not everybody has to agree. But to say that they don't believe in the things that they are saying
and build a business, who go out of our way to make offers to people for tens of millions of dollars so they can continue to promote, to provide the content that you want. Tens of millions of dollars to people like Steven Crowder. I don't see a lot of other people walking across the table to make this offer to Steven Crowder. The easiest thing to do in our particular industry is to attack your friends and make money off of that.
That's fact. I didn't even think about that in a general YouTube sense. Is that you could just create beef and people, I mean, I can talk about it right now. Somebody super chatted to the Timcast episode with Candace that like, what if they're faking this whole beef? I was like, oh, we got Jorge Masvidal and Colby Covington all over again. But I don't think so.
The hardest thing to do in our industry is to win at business and to win against the left. And those two things are simultaneous. Because if you lose money, you can't keep operating and fight the agenda of the left. You know, it makes me nauseous.
All right. So I got another. And then one last piece here before I drop the link for you guys. ABL covered this video that Candace did from her podcast, whatever. I guess it was today. And she went in. So let's hear it.
Unrelatable. People are trying to pay for bacon and eggs right now at the grocery store.
Sorry, Jess.
Or trying to buy a steak.
It's not that long, I promise.
Once a week. And you're over here crying because somebody couldn't meet you at $120 million. And it is crying. I don't like it. It was a total move.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about Candace Owens destroying Steven Crowder over the whole Daily Wire controversy. Now, of course, full disclosure, Candace Owens works with Daily Wire. So if you hear her talk, you say, oh, her opinion doesn't matter. She's over there with Daily Wire. She's defending her employer, whatever. It doesn't really matter. What she said here, from my point of view, is 100% facts. Now, before we get to her video, which I do have, and if you want to see her full video from Tim Pool, her video from Daily Wire, everything else, I'll link to it in the box. But first things first. Now, Steven Crowder was given the offer sheet by Daily Wire.
We're actually not under.
Hold on.
Candace Owens. And of course, again, this will be.
I see you, Jess.
At the end of the day, I think what happened, this is completely my opinion, by the way, so I'm not blinking twice, I'm not under duress, is that Steven Crowder became a free agent and he's feeling a little vulnerable right now, right? He's used to working for other organizations. So
for those listening, it says, Real Candace Owens on Steven Crowder. Unrelatable. People are trying to pay for bacon and eggs right now at the grocery store. And you're over here crying because somebody couldn't meet you at $120 million. It was a total bitch move.
Has some guaranteed pay. And he thought that Daily Wire were actually going to meet him at $120 million. They didn't. They declined. And he's still feeling a little shaky on that. It's scary to go out on your own. I thought about it. I thought about going out on my own. It's a lot of work. Maybe down the line I will. But it's a scary thing to go out, to step out on your own and say, I'm going to do this thing completely by myself. As Jeremy pointed out, Steven's not done that before, right? And so to do this, he pulled a move in which he was going to try to take a bunch of people that were subscribed to the Daily Wire and start his own company. So essentially saying, I'm the hero, I'm the martyr, follow me because I'm not like those guys. And then he was going to start his own shop. And that's what he's trying to do. And some people fell for it and said, I'm with you to the end. I'm Mug Club till I die.
By the way, Candace is hilarious. Just straight up hilarious. Like, she's being dead serious right now, but she's funny. Shout out to Candace.
And didn't understand that really nothing happened here other than nobody wanted to pay Steven Crowder $120 million. So he turned to his viewers who he thinks are stupid enough at least not to understand how business negotiations work, right? Like this is like normal, you kick it back and forth. And they were going to make up for his loss. So people that are upset by his video, the millions of people who watched it, are now going to give him $1, whatever it costs to be in the mug club. And they're going to become the $120 million that he feels that he deserves. First of all, I'm just going to say this, unrelatable. Unrelatable. People are trying to pay for bacon and eggs right now at the grocery store, trying to buy a steak once a week. And you're over here crying because somebody couldn't meet you at $120 million. And it is crying. I don't like it. It was a total move. There are plenty of things that happen across all organizations in the conservative movement where I will say that I empathize with Steven Crowder and saying that sometimes you feel like a cynic, which is like, is everybody selling out? Are people doing this? People doing that? There are a lot of things that Daily Wire has done that I disagree with. There's a lot of things that Turning Point has done that I disagree with.
But she's not going to come out and leak secretly recorded phone calls. You know what I mean?
Are things perhaps that PragerU has done that I disagree with. I'm
gonna pause it right here. What she's saying is correct about, certain organizations, things that they've done that you may not like or agree with. That's correct. But see, the thing about Crowder is that he said Jeremy Boring was his friend from Daily Wire. So if that's your friend, certain things they do, certain practices they may have, you're not going to air them out like that. You're not going to record a conversation to put it out there to the public and try to make him be some kind of villain. If that's your friend, you talk to him behind the scenes, try to get it figured out.
With friends like that, who needs enemies?
Oh, that way you don't air the dirty laundry out there, because I know quite a bit about a lot of people. I've seen so much, I know so much that y'all would never know, because I keep it to myself. I've been known that Crowder was not a good person, that he does bad business. Not necessarily as far as financially, but he doesn't treat people right. I've been known that, but I'm not going to say a word. Why? I'm not a hater. He hasn't done anything to me. It's just called a certain level of courtesy. I'm not out here trying to attack people to make myself become rich or whatever. I'm good just doing what I do, how I do it, being an honest person, being a stand-up guy. That's just me. But some people are a little bit different. I think Crowder is one of these guys that's a little bit different. Let's keep on going here.
Done that I disagree with. I have worked with all of these companies, right? But to do a total...
I didn't know that. I didn't know that he had a reputation of being hard to work with. Again, that's not completely damning, but it does add, it adds to the pile of shit that is not looking good for Steven Crowder.
Move and go out to the public rather than trying to resolve these things and these slight differences behind the scenes, and to make it seem like you're the hero and you're the true one and you keep it authentic when something really nothing happened other than you didn't like an initial term sheet. And all you had to do was tell them that and tell them what you didn't like and go back and forth with lawyers like everybody else. I think it's crappy. I think Steven is a little egocentric. He probably will do better on his own. I don't think he knows how to plan a team. And by the way, the last thing I'm going to say, because I'm going on Tim Pool tonight, so I'm going to say it anyways later, is that I'm pretty sure, wasn't it Steven Crowder who also screwed over somebody he used to work with? Was it not Gay Jared? Because he had him tied up in a contract.
I forgot about this. There was a dude who used to work, like he was the number one, like secondhand guy on Steven Crowder. They called him Not Gay Jared. And I don't know what's gone good with that, because he had to sign an NDA.
Wasn't that Steven Crowder who did that? So is he supposed to be the moral high bar? Or are we not supposed to call him out for that? Here's the thing. Steven, why don't you release Not Gay Jared from his NDA and allow him to talk about how he felt he was treated by you? Because I know that at the Blaze, everyone says that you're actually not that nice. You treat people poorly, but you bring in so much revenue that everybody just has to take it. So I don't like it. It stinks to high heaven. And I'm calling you out on that because I think it was crappy that you threw mud on me. Did it the first time via a tweet a long time ago. You're not doing it a second time. Total move.
So that is a lot of the context of what we are leading into. Whether there's more stuff that comes out this weekend, or if we have to wait until Monday, where hopefully Crowder does actually follow through and go on Timcast, especially if his goal here is to start his own platform. I don't see how he could sacrifice the benefit of being on Timcast, no matter how good or bad he looks. But I have dropped the link. I would ask you guys to cam up. And there, if you have anything specifically, I'm very curious about those of you who think it's okay to leak the audio that he did. But anybody who, has any opinions different than my own, anybody who wants to agree, anybody who wants to come up, shout out their channel, whatever you want, come on up here. Otherwise, we are going to head over to the Discord panel where we can really party. We don't have to worry about a damn thing dealing with YouTube and their guidelines and their words that we have to say and what we can't say and all that stuff. And that is where the party rages on 24/7. So again, the link is in the description. As soon as we are done here, that is where we are headed. That is what we do every single show. We always discuss really cool things, and sometimes we get off into these weird, awesome conversations, and I love hanging out with you guys. So it doesn't seem like anybody is coming up. So I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out. If you have not already, please smack that like button. That is the biggest thing that can help this party grow. So, actually, the biggest thing that can help this party grow is either right here. Take the URL or hit that share button, send it out. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you can. That is how these parties will grow. So if you care about bringing this up, that's the way to do it. And of course, we know we are knocking on the door of monetization, but I am not there yet. And I have spent a shit ton of time, money, energy into this because I care so much about bringing all this to you. And so if you would like to support me, you can hit CashApp or Venmo. There's also PayPal and Bitcoin in the description. But you don't have to do any of that, guys. You do not have to do a single thing. If all you can do is sit here and watch me and be part of this and be in the chat, all of that stuff, that is perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. I just love hanging out with you guys. I love that I have a place where I can come and talk to you guys. I love that this is, you guys seem to be enjoying it. We're growing, and I can't wait to come back and do more. So I agree with you there, Trey. It's a constant struggle. It's a constant thing that we're working on, but I know with you guys, I'll be able to make it. Fuck you, Nightbot. I know with you guys and your help, you'll be able to get me there. And once we do, you guys don't understand how much I have planned for you. If you did, oh man, but that's okay. Just stick around and find out. So with that said, thank you so much, guys. I really, really, really do appreciate you. Again, the link for the Discord is in the description. That is where I am headed as soon as this is done. And I just want to thank you guys so much. Again, check out my6shirt.com. And I really, really, really appreciate you guys. Oh, Cerebrus is heading out. Thank you so much for stopping by, brother. I really, really, really do appreciate you. Again, it is the biggest thing that that matters to me, that you guys are here and caring about what I have to say. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this party. I am your host, Lutch, aka the Indian Jesus, here to resurrect the second coming of common sense. Until next time, guys, I am out of here. Peace.